Section 3B.6, the brain and consciousness. What is the dual processing being revealed by today's cognitive neuroscience? In today's science, one of the most hotly pursued research quests is to understand the biology of consciousness. Evolutionary psychologists speculate that consciousness must offer a reproductive advantage. Barash, 2006. Perhaps consciousness helps us act in our long-term interests by considering consequences, rather than merely seeking short-term pleasure and avoiding pain. Or perhaps consciousness promotes our survival by anticipating how we seem to others and helping us read their minds. He looks really angry, I'd better run. Even so, that leaves us with the so-called hard problem. How do brain cells jabbering to one another create our awareness of the taste of a taco, the pain of a toothache, the feeling of fright? Section 3B.6.1, Cognitive Neuroscience. Scientists assume, in the words of neuroscientist Marvin Minsky, 1986, page 287, that the mind is what the brain does. We just don't know how it does it. Given all the world's chemicals, computer chips, and energy, we still don't have a clue how to make a conscious robot. Yet today's cognitive neuroscience, the interdisciplinary study of the brain activity linked with our mental processes, is taking the first small steps by relating specific brain states to conscious experiences. We know, for example, that the upper brainstem contributes to consciousness because some children born without a cerebral cortex exhibit signs of consciousness. Marker, 2007. Another stunning demonstration of some level of consciousness appeared in brain scans of a non-communicative patient, a 23-year-old woman who had been in a car accident and showed no outward signs of conscious awareness. Owen et al., 2006. When researchers asked her to imagine playing tennis or moving around her home, fMRI scans revealed brain activity like that of healthy volunteers. As she imagined playing tennis, for example, an area of her brain controlling arm and leg movements became active, figure 3.37. Even in a motionless body, the researchers concluded the brain and the mind may still be active. However, most cognitive neuroscientists are exploring and mapping the conscious functions of the cortex. Based on your cortical activation patterns, they can now, in some limited ways, read your mind. They can, for example, tell which of 10 similar objects, hammer, drill, and so forth, you are viewing. Shinkareva et al., 2008. Despite such advances, much disagreement remains. One research group theorizes that conscious experiences arise from specific neuron circuits firing in a specific manner. Another sees conscious experiences as produced by the synchronized activity of the whole brain. Koch and Greenfield, 2007. How the brain produces the mind remains a mystery. Section 3B.6.2, Dual Processing. Many cognitive neuroscience discoveries tell us of a particular brain region that becomes active with a particular conscious experience. Such findings strike many people as interesting, but not mind-blowing. If everything psychological is simultaneously biological, then our ideas, emotions, and spirituality must all somehow be embodied. What is mind-blowing to many of us is the growing evidence that we have, so to speak, two minds, each supported by its own neural equipment. At any moment, you and I are aware of little more than what's on the screen of our consciousness. But one of the grand ideas of recent cognitive neuroscience is that much of our brain work occurs offstage, out of sight. We saw this in the discussion of the conscious left brain and more intuitive right brain, and in the older brain functions that effortlessly sustain our living and perceiving. Later units will explore our hidden mind at work in research on unconscious priming, on conscious, explicit, and unconscious, implicit memories, on conscious versus automatic prejudices, and on the out-of-sight processing that enables sudden insights and creative moments. Perception, memory, thinking, language, and attitudes all operate on two levels, a conscious, deliberate high road and an unconscious, automatic low road. Today's researchers call this dual processing. We know more than we know we know. Section 3B.6.3, the two-track mind. A scientific story illustrates the mind's two levels. Sometimes science-aided critical thinking confirms widely held beliefs, but sometimes, as this story illustrates, science is stranger than science fiction. During my sojourns at Scotland's University of St. Andrews, I came to know cognitive neuroscientists Melville Goodale and David Milner, 2004-2006. A local woman, whom they called DF, was overcome by carbon monoxide one day while showering. The resulting brain damage left her unable to recognize and discriminate objects visually. Yet she was only partly blind, for she would act as if she could see. Asked to slip a postcard into a vertical or horizontal mail slot, she could do so without error. Although unable to report the width of a block in front of her, she could grasp it with just the right finger-thumb distance. How could this be? Don't we have one visual system? Goodale and Milner knew from animal research that the eye sends information simultaneously to different brain areas, which have different tasks. Sure enough, a scan of DF's brain activity revealed normal activity in the area concerned with reaching for and grasping objects, but damage in the area concerned with consciously recognizing objects. So would the reverse damage lead to the opposite symptoms? Indeed, there are a few such patients who can see and recognize objects but have difficulty pointing toward or grasping them. How strangely intricate is this thing we call vision, conclude Goodale and Milner in their aptly titled book, Sight Unseen. We may think of our vision as one system that controls our visually guided actions, but it is actually a dual processing system. A visual perception track enables us to create the mental furniture that allows us to think about the world, to recognize things, and to plan future actions. A visual action track guides our moment-to-moment actions. On rare occasions, the two conflict. Shown the hollow face illusion, people will mistakenly perceive the inside of a mask as a protruding face, figure 3.38. Yet they will unhesitatingly and accurately reach into the inverted mask to flick off a bug-like target stuck on the face. What their conscious mind doesn't know, their hand does. This big idea that much of our everyday thinking, feeling, and acting operates outside our conscious awareness is a difficult one for people to accept, report New York University psychologists John Barr and Tanya Chartrand, 1999. We are understandably biased to believe that our own intentions and deliberate choices rule our lives, but in the minds downstairs, there's much, much more to being human. So consciousness, though enabling us to exert voluntary control and to communicate our mental states to others, is but the tip of the information processing iceberg. Beneath the surface, unconscious information processing occurs simultaneously on many parallel tracks. When we look at a bird flying, we are consciously aware of the result of our cognitive processing. It's a hummingbird, but not of our sub-processing of the bird's color, form, movement, distance, and identity. Today's neuroscientists are identifying neural activity that precedes consciousness. In some provocative experiments, Benjamin Libet, 1985-2004, observed that when you move your wrist at will, you consciously experience the decision to move it about 0.2 seconds before the actual movement. No surprise there. But your brain waves jump about 0.35 seconds ahead of your conscious perception of your decision, figure 3.39. Thus, before you know it, your brain seems headed toward your decision to move your wrist. Likewise, if asked to press a button when you feel a tap, you can respond in 1/10 of a second, less time than it takes to become conscious that you have responded. Wegner, 2002. In a follow-up experiment, fMRI brain scans enabled researchers to predict, with 60% accuracy and up to 7 seconds ahead, participants' decisions to press a button with their left or right finger. Soon et al., 2008. The startling conclusion? Consciousness sometimes arrives late to the decision-making party. All of this unconscious information processing occurs simultaneously on multiple parallel tracks. Traveling by car on a familiar route, your hands and feet do the driving while your mind rehearses your upcoming day. Running on automatic pilot allows your consciousness, your mind CEO, to monitor the whole system and deal with new challenges, while many assistants automatically take care of routine business. Serial conscious processing, though slower than parallel processing, is skilled at solving new problems, which require our focused attention. Try this. If you are right-handed, you can move your right foot in a smooth counterclockwise circle, and you can write the number 3 repeatedly with your right hand, but probably not at the same time. If you are musically inclined, try something equally difficult. Tap a steady 3 times with your left hand while tapping 4 times with your right hand. Both tasks require conscious attention, which can be in only one place at a time. If time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening at once, then consciousness is nature's way of keeping us from thinking and doing everything at once. Before you move on, ask yourself, can you recall a time when your attention focused on one thing, you were oblivious to something else, perhaps to pain, to someone's approach, or to background music? Test yourself too. What are the mind's 2 tracks as revealed by studies of dual processing?